UFC star Sean Strickland was recently on Theo's podcast where he talked about what made him stop believing in God and how that led to him having some of the darkest impulses that a man can have.
The only thing that I truly want is the fucking, like,
make somebody hurt.
Fucking hurt, yes. You don't understand? Like, I truly have a deep down urge to kill somebody. Like, I can't, it doesn't go away. Like, I just, like, I don't know what it is, man. Like, there's definitely something inside me that, like, tells me that, like, the moment I take someone's life, you'll be happy. And I would. Like, I would. If you could let me kill a man, like, happy as I can't, but.
Right. Some places.
But as I listened to the context of his story, it started to make more and more sense and really revealed just how much unresolved trauma can shape us. Let me explain. It's no secret that in order to be a UFC star, you have to have very little remorse for hurting people. But with Sean, it's a little bit of a different story because of his history. For him, UFC is merely an outlet that helps to soothe his deep feelings of raging anger, which he didn't always have. The feelings of hatred started during his elementary school years as he would watch his dad attack his mother. Now, before we play these clips, just a heads up, he's going to talk about some really dark and graphic stuff. So if you're sensitive to this sort of thing, then viewer discretion is advised. Here's how he describes his experience as a child.
My dad gets on top of my mom. And she says, like, I remember he said, like, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna fucking kill you tonight. Maybe it was just rough sex. We don't know at this moment, right?
And you were under the bed?
I'm under the bed. So he starts strangling her, and I get out, and the only thing I can see is a guitar. I just crack him in the head, call the cops, and then I run down the street, calls the cops, gets arrested. My dumbass mom bailed him out of jail.
Oh.
Okay, so he's talking about some of the events, but listen to how he says it impacted him at school.
Right. I mean, I remember like being a little kid, so I would always miss school and like just be up until like 3 a.m, just like tell my mom, tell my mom she's a whore, they say kill her. Like, so I remember like I used to sit there and just kind of like hug my mom's leg in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we had this little nook, and she would like go in the nook, and I would just sit there like all night long, by like the feet of my mom, and my dad like, oh, I'm gonna kill you and this and that. He'd always tell her that like if you cheat on me, and she probably was cheating on him, if you cheat on me, I'm gonna like cut you up and put you in a bottle of acid and bury you. Now you fast forward this, like I don't go to school, I'm up till 3 a.m, and I couldn't stay awake in school. Like, so like I remember I was like in second grade, and I kept falling asleep at my desk, and my teacher took my desk away from me, and she made me like stand up. The school system's like, oh, Sean, like, he's just a bad kid. They don't realize I'm up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Like,
all right, to pause there real quick. First off, I couldn't imagine having to go through something like that. And the fact that he was getting in trouble at school because of it makes everything even more heartbreaking. This is why it's so important to remember that we don't see the full picture of why people act the way that they do. We only see the outcome. All we might see is Sean talking about how bad he wants to hurt people without ever realizing the experiences that were out of his control that contributed to him feeling this way. The only one who fully understands Sean's story is God. And Sean used to believe that God was there watching over him as a kid, which must have really meant a lot to him, because watch what happens as soon as he starts talking about God.
Dude, I remember like laying in bed. Like I remember I stopped believing in God, man. Like fucking, like I had fucking, yeah, it's crazy, dude. Crazy shit, man.
Yeah. It's okay, man. It's a lot of that sad, dude. I used to be scared at night. Like, I used to stand up. Like I heard when I was a kid that like,
so at this point, Theo seems to be telling a personal story to try to make it lighter, but Sean still doesn't budge.
If you peed around like animals could pee somewhere that other animals wouldn't come. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Huh?
Yeah, man,
have you ever heard that? Yeah, I'm sorry, bud.
So, man.
I'm sorry, buddy.
That's all good, dude.
And this goes on for about another minute as Sean is unable to continue talking about it. Okay, let's pause there for a second. Now, I'm not going to lie, that was really hard to watch. It sounds like at such a young age, Sean was so devastated by watching what his dad was doing to his mom that he could no longer reconcile what he was witnessing with the existence of God. And losing belief in God might have been the very thing that led to the anger that he has today. And we'll get into why that is here in a second. But first, I want you to notice just how Sean reacts once again when he starts talking about God.
I remember like, you know, like you don't even know what it is when you're a kid. When you're really talking about Side, like being a little kid, like laying in bed, like just like, man, I'm done with this shit. You know, like there can't be a God.
That makes me sad.
Yeah, it's fucked up, dude.
No, it just makes me sad that a kid has to feel that way.
Now, there's a reason why these two moments in the conversation when he mentioned God were the ones that seemed to carry the most emotional weight. I don't know Sean, of course, so this is only speculation, but there's a pattern that I've seen in other people that I've known over and over again. When going through these awful times as a kid, if we believe in God, then we can give the pain to God and pray for him to help us deal with it, and also trust that he will judge the offenders justly. This gives us a way to process the pain and the resentment that we have because of the person who hurt us. But when we stop believing in God, especially at a young age, we no longer feel that we can trust God with our pain, and so we're left with having to keep the pain inside. And as we hold on to the pain over the years, we start to see it come out as explosive anger. This is why the question of how God could allow such horrible things to happen is such an important question that can really shape our entire lives. But the only problem is, it's an incredibly tough question to answer. If you were to ask me specifically why God would allow a kid to go through the sort of trauma that Sean went through, the honest answer to that question is, I don't know why, and I won't pretend to. But as a Bible-believing Christian, one thing that I do know is that the answer can't be because God doesn't care. In Christianity, we have a God who looked down at the suffering going on in our world, and he didn't just stay there in heaven feeling indifferent about it, but instead, he put on human flesh, came into our world, and what did he do? He suffered. So it's not as though God is apathetic to our suffering. He knows firsthand what it's like to suffer. God not only relates to us in our suffering, but he loves us so much that he came down and took on unimaginable suffering, not for himself and his sake, but instead for us and our sake. But it seems to me that the thing that Sean might have needed most to get through the trauma was the one thing that he got rid of in that moment: his belief in God. I say that because Christianity not only gives us the resources to cope with the suffering, but it also gives us the ability to process our suffering through the suffering of Christ. When we're hurt by others, we can remember that, just as Peter said, "To this you were called, because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps. He committed no sin, and no deceit was found in his mouth. When they hurled insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly." So in other words, when we experience pain at the hands of others, we can trust that God will judge them justly, and this gives us the strength to be able to let it go. When we get rid of the pain, the anger, and the resentment, and we really give it to God, it allows for us to let go of the raging anger that keeps us in bondage and controls our lives. So this is why, even if you're not a Christian, you can see why study after study shows that Christianity is both good for you and your mental health. And for more on this, go ahead and click on this video and I'll see you over there. But the next time you find yourself struggling to really let go of the pain from the past, what are you gonna say? What do you mean?